Hi. So one thing I've been thinking about is when people are looking into Christian faith and trying to work out, like, is this legit or not? Is there any truth to this or not? One of the biggest obstacles for people is actually often other Christians, the behavior of other Christians or so-called Christians, right? So a great example of this would be Donald Trump. He claims to be a Christian, and so this confuses a lot of people. A lot of people, because they're just like, well, how on earth could this guy doesn't seem to be behaving in a way that, like, is particularly loving, is particularly in alignment with what Christianity is supposed to be, from what people understand Christianity is, right? And this is a typical thing. I mean, there's corruption within different church institutions. The Catholic Church is kind of notorious for it, like Catholic priests have to take a vow of celibacy, right? Which I believe is mandatory, and that's not actually biblical. And yeah, that repression has resulted in some cases of, like, paedophilia and stuff, right? And that's valid. But going back to Trump, well, any people, but Trump is a good example, I guess. Jesus said, like, by their fruits you will know them, right? So the only actual example to look to when you are investigating Christianity and faith would be Jesus, the life of Jesus. And that's why, like, reading a gospel of John, gospel of Matthew, whichever of the four gospels, is a great starting point, because you can actually try to get an idea of Jesus' character. What did he say? What was he about? And the idea is that, like, we can become more like Jesus if we follow the path, right? And so, when Jesus said, by their fruits you will know them, it's kind of like the main indication to see if someone is actually following and kind of has a genuine Christian faith, which is something they prioritize in their life, right? Is, are they becoming more like Jesus? Are they growing in love and humility and these things, And so when thinking of it from that point of view, it can simplify things quite a lot, because otherwise, it's easy and it's natural to be like, well, this must just be rubbish, because look at the way some of these people are behaving who claim to be Christians, right? And Jesus had power, but it was like power not of this world, it was like spiritual power, and if you look at someone like Trump, with him as the example, it's the complete opposite. He wants worldly power, he wants to dominate everyone, he seems hell-bent on just kind of destruction at this point, and that clearly isn't in alignment with what Jesus was teaching or what he was like, and so sometimes it's a useful thing to do. It's kind of like people will say, test what you hear and what you see against the Bible, and I guess this is kind of an example of that. It's like you can test what people say, how they live, if they're claiming to be Christian, against Jesus. Jesus is kind of like the sort of roadmap, or the kind of the kind of measure we can use to determine, if someone's... Because Trump, for example, will just say, yeah, sure, I'm a Christian. Well, why is he saying that? Because he's a populist, right? I believe that's the word. He's trying to appeal to the masses in America, like, yeah, we make America great again, right? We were built on these Christian principles and so on and so forth. It sounds good, and he that's exactly what he is, right? That's how he got elected, then re-elected, and on it goes, because he's appealing to the kind of common man in America. And it's kind of like a manipulation, really, because he's just like, yeah, so I'm a Christian, so I'm this, so I'm that, so people will vote for him. But look at his behaviour, man. It's entirely opposite to Jesus' behaviour. So there's just no way to logically argue that he has a genuine faith of importance to him, which he acts on, So I don't know. I guess that kind of, it can help to simplify that issue and that question, because it is kind of valid, and I think it's what distracts so many people from looking into Christian faith themselves, like looking into what the Bible actually says, what the meaning of it is, what Jesus was about, and what the meaning of our life is, which is then to become more like Jesus as we follow God, the God that is actually real, like the external real God that cares about us all and is just waiting for us to, because we have free will, we're not forced to do anything. He's just waiting for us to turn to him, and the Bible is almost a way to, like, decipher and start to understand this, and it's just such a useful thing. But people, as I say, get sidetracked from ever getting to that point of wanting to investigate that, because they just see the hypocrisy of Christians, some people claiming to be Christians, right? And I don't know, I hope that's helpful, because I also struggled with that for a long time. I was just like, it kept me away from believing there was validity to the Gospels, to the Bible, and to the the Christian life, because I just saw so much hypocrisy everywhere, and I was like, well, these guys say one thing and do another thing, and they talk about Jesus and the love of Jesus, and they seem to be full of hatred. And of course, like the other example of like paedophilia in the Catholic Church, yeah, that's like a really bad thing, and of course people should feel angry about that. But it's like this thing of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. People are always going to stray. Another kind of key idea is that we're all sinners, and this can be difficult for people to accept. Like, people don't always want to hear that we're sinners, that we're drawn to do bad, and we need God's help to kind of walk in a different way. I don't struggle at all with that idea anymore, but it can be a difficult idea initially. It's like, what do you mean I'm a sinner? But again, that's something which, you know, we all are, all of us. And it's an idea that can kind of grow over time if you look into it and you read the Bible and stuff. It's like, but it's not to single out anyone or to say, no, you're a sinner and I'm not. And to be fair, sometimes even religious people can be guilty of that as well. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm saved now and you're a sinner and I'm not. It's like, no, we are all, including those who've been, you know, saved, to use the word, basically have found Jesus, have found that path and are walking on it. I'm still a sinner. We all are. But like, we all are equally. And, you know, so there's, as I say, often it can actually be the people themselves who are flawed and broken, as we all are, which can put off non-believers from ever looking more into it. So I would just try to encourage anyone who's listening to this to, you know, try to put aside whatever hypocrisy and wrongs you see others doing in the name of like God, which there's just plenty and ample, because we're all flawed. But that doesn't invalidate Jesus and how, you know, ultimately perfect he was as the example for us, and the reality of God. Like, those things can still be true no matter how much hypocrisy and brokenness goes on. And it's just so worth looking into, you know. As I said before, you know, just like give it a go, just try. You have nothing to lose by like reading one of the Gospels. John is a great Gospel to start with, you know, and just read it with an open mind and just see what speaks to you, you know, with your mind. Ask God, you know, just, even if you don't believe in God yet, you know, God, just speak to me as I read this and just see what happens. That's it. But go on your own instincts, right? Don't worry about other people, what people have told you. Just simply like see for yourself, because there's nothing to lose by doing it, you know. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I hope you have a great day.